You think you're funny, do you?
And so I said to myself, I said, do my ragamuffins know how to draw a bar graph from a particular pool of data? Can they make sure that all the data is included and that the bars are clear and complete? Today's video is going to use two strategies to help you do exactly that. The first strategy is highest bar thinking, and the second one is friendly numbers scaling. Between those two strategies, you ought to be able to have graphs that are clear and complete. Let's get cracking. A teacher records his students' reading and keeps all the data in one spot. He's got a chart here with 3 different types of information that he's recorded. The first thing he's checked are the number of minutes nightly read. The range is from 20 to 50 minutes, and we've got the actual data right there. The second category that he looked at was the number of books read monthly, ranging from 6 to 12. And the third is the number of pages per book. So what I want to focus on right now is not so much the individual data, but what types of ranges, what types of scores are we going to use, and what is the right scale that we could use to show the data correctly and easily. For the nightly minutes, I've got 20 to 50. So I look at this and right away, I think I could count by 5s or I could count by 10s, especially since the range has digits ending in 0. That's counts by 10, literally. For the number of books read monthly, I'm likely to count by 1s or by 2s. And for the number of pages per book, this looks like I ought to count by 10s. Maybe even 20s, though, depending on how much room that I have. All right, let's get to it. So the data that we have for the number of minutes read nightly ranges from 25 all the way up to 48. If we use the highest bar thinking, I have to pay attention to the highest value of data that we've recorded to make sure that when I draw the y-axis, it's tall enough to include 48. Can you imagine if I didn't set it up that way? If I just started adding numbers, but I couldn't actually plot my 48, that'd be a total waste of time. The lowest number I don't have to focus on too much because I'm going to start from 0. Again, as I look at what makes sense, what's the easiest type of number of scale that I could use from 20 to 50, I think, well, if I counted by 5s, I would need 10 different intervals. And I don't have space for 10, I have 5, but they are large. I think 5 groups of 10 makes the most sense. So what I'm going to do here is start down below, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go up as high as 6, and then let me give myself a little bit of room here. I'm going to go across by 5 since I have 5 pieces of data to record. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Put my little arrowheads on there to show that these are number lines, and they actually extend as far as you can imagine. It's towards infinity. So now I have to label my y-axis with the right scale. I know that I have to show 48. I've accounted for that. And now what I'm going to do is just count by 10s. So that's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. And I'm going to go ahead and just list that. 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. But because I know that I'm going to have data that ends in a 5 twice, I'm going to take advantage of this and just split the increments of 10 in half, which is essentially counting by 5s. So when I have to record those data on the graph, I'll be able to have a nice clean line to show how they compare. The first number that I have to look at is 25. And for 25, what I'm going to do is go up 10, 20, and go straight across just like this. No adjustment needed. 48 is going to be almost to the 50, right here. 37 is going to be almost to the 40. In fact, I'm going to put 40 right there, and then I'm just going to gently move it down. If I have it halfway, that's 35. So I think 37 is right about there. Now I have 31. So that's going to be just above 30. I feel good about that. And then 45, which is exactly halfway between 40 and 50. I do feel like I ought to label the x-axis with the values of the bar. So that's 25, 48, 37, 31, and 45. It's actually a really good time for me to double check and make sure that I have listed all the various data that's in the pool. Sometimes if you go too quickly, you can actually miss some of the data, and then you end up with a graph that is not complete and not correct. And those are the two C's that I really want to make sure I accomplish here. The last thing I like to do is simply color it in, and we'll go with those two colors to remind me of my Gators. Why do I even care? It was so long ago. Anyway, go Gators, right? And there we have it. We've been able to select a scale that works really well for the y-axis. In this case, we chose counting by tens because it allows us to include the highest piece of data. Using our highest bar thinking, we were able to make sure that we got all the data included. I'm going to go ahead and draw the other two and then highlight the decisions that I used to come to terms with the scale that I chose. So here we go. The number of books monthly ranged from 6 to 12. So I have to encounter data that comes from 6 all the way up to 12. Using the highest bar thinking, I have to make certain that 12 is included. 12 is going to be the top right there. I had 6 increments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Being that I had 6 spaces and I wanted to get all the way up to 12, I chose to hop by 2s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Now, when I go ahead and list this data, it should be nice and clear and easy. 7 is right in between 6 and 8. 9 is right in between 8 and 10. 6, right on the money here. The next one is 12, all the way up at the top, and then 10 going straight across. And then it's just a matter of drawing the bars. And I have to tell you, once you get the hang of looking at the highest value and then thinking about what sorts of groups, how could I do counts by? 2s, 5s, 10s, hundreds. It doesn't matter as long as you can account for all the data easily. Then it's just plotting the points and coloring, which is, a great deal of fun. So you've got the 7 right there, 9 there, 6 right on the money, 12 is my highest bar, and the final one is the 10. Take a look at this one. The number of pages per book has a range from 70 to 120. This was a little bit of a challenge for me. Of course, the x-axis down at the bottom was fairly simple. I just had 5 numbers to show. Nothing really to think about. The y-axis, using my highest bar thinking, I have to show 111. Well, since I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces, I realized that if I counted by tens, I would need 11 or 12 increments, which I don't have. However, if I counted by 20s, I could fit them all in. The truth is, it's going to be a little bit harder to be precise, but that's okay. Let's choose the same numbers. So I'm going to go with 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. And those of you who are really quick might notice that if you know how to count by twos, you also know how to count by 20s. In fact, in order to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to do the same thing as I did in the first time. If I split 20 in half, I get 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. So now my bar actually, my y-axis, actually does allow me to count by 10s, even though I've listed counting by 20s. The first bar is 85. That's going to be halfway between 80 and 90. The next one is 111. Well, 110 is right here. And so if I go just a little bit higher, that's 111. 79 is almost at 80. I'm going to go right underneath there. 100 exactly. And then 91 is just one above 90, which I think is going to be right there. Easy guy. And then I just go ahead and connect my bars, and I've done it again. I paid attention to the highest value. I made certain I could do counts by an easy increment, and then it's just about finding the height of the bar and going ahead and showing exactly where each one sits. Double check to make sure that I have included all the data, and quite frankly, then it's just about enjoying my masterpiece. I hope you can enjoy creating masterpieces of your own. Until then, see ya. In fact, why don't we have you do one right now? The Iron Maiden Half Triathlon is an incredible race. It's made up of 3 parts. You swim for 1 mile. As soon as you're finished with that, you run a half marathon, which is just over 13 miles. Get out of your running shoes into your biking shoes, and then you bike 50 miles. It's an incredible race. Well, Remy's mom was training, and she was swimming laps in the pool, and she kept track of it. The data is as follows. Then, with her runs, she ran 4 to 10 miles at a time, running 5, 7, 4, 10, and 8 miles. For biking, her range was from 60 to 100 miles with the data as follows. What I need for you to do is to draw 3 bar graphs, 1 for each of the sets of data. Do it on your own. Pause the video. In fact, you won't need to pause. I'll put the key, the answer key, in the description. And after you've done your drawing, simply click on that link and check your own work. Good luck. Once you've taken a look at the range of values in your data pool, you make sure that the scale that you choose for your y-axis can easily allow you to represent the highest value in your data pool. You also want to make sure that you choose numbers that are either even or counts by 5 or 10, or maybe even counting by 1 if the values are small enough, so that you can also compare the various heights of each bar for each category. With that in mind, I hope you can use the strategies that we've covered today, highest bar thinking, and friendly numbers for your scales, and between those two, happy graphing. Hope that helps. Bye.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything.